So essentially there are, for me, two types of Italian gialli. The one is where the protagonist actually is involved in the investigation and takes steps to unravel the mystery, which are more related to the original murder mysteries of the 1920s and so on, Agatha Christie and so on. So our protagonist may be a stranger in Italy who gets by chance involved in some grisly event and then is forced, or by of their own curiosity is then actively looking to solve the mystery by interviewing people looking for clues. So that's the one kind of giallo. That's essentially the real giallo, which is a murder mystery. And then there is the second type, which is more of a thriller and more of a fetishistic thing, which outwardly looks about the same. There is still the black-gloved killer, there are murder set pieces, there is maybe some jet-setting element, again a foreigner in Italy. And what happens in the second category is they don't really investigate. Things just happen to them. Again, they might witness some nasty murder and then become involved. Maybe the police grabs them and won't let them leave. And things basically happen to them. Witnesses come forward and just bring them information literally on a plate, or clues fall in their lap. So this is the second, more lax kind of a giallo, which relies more, I think, on the visual side of things and on again on various attributes. But on the storytelling level, it's less of a murder mystery because if you look at Four Flies on Grey Velvet, in that one the protagonist Roberto doesn't really go out and do much of sleuthing himself. He actually delegates that to a number of subordinate characters. He hires a private detective. Even his homeless friends kind of go out of their way to look after him, and even they give him advice and sort of connect him to other furnish him new information. And the giallo I'm talking to you about today, which is the 1973 Death Carries a Cane, is more, to my eye, to my mind, more in the second category, where the characters aren't terribly active. Like nominally there is this investigator played by George Martin, who I believe is Spanish. Anyway, Death Carries a Cane is largely Barcelona, Spanish, Catalonian production which is co-produced with Italy and set in Rome, but a lot of the actors are Spanish, including the leading lady Susan Scott Nieves Navarro, I absolutely adore her. I think she's excellent in the movie Death Comes at Midnight, Death Walks at Midnight. I think that's a wonderful film, and that's to me, her role in that is like the most, the feistiest and most resourceful and independent girl of any classic 1970s giallo film. Really an excellent character, and so I'm very much fond of Susan Scott due to that role, and I enjoy Death Carries a Cane largely because Susan Scott is in it. I also like Austrian actor Robert Hoffman, who plays the male protagonist. Even though this isn't like a first-rate giallo, it's still fun, and it's fun picking elements the filmmakers have pilfered from more successful blueprints to the genre. With Death Carries a Cane, you can definitely see that Bird with Crystal Plumage, the plot of that film has been largely recycled. For example, there is a scene with Susan Scott in bed with her boyfriend, and in her head she's going over the images of earlier that day when she witnessed the murder. And it's a very similar moment to when Sam Dalmas is in bed in Bird, and he's having those stylized flashbacks where it sort of freeze frames and zooms on the opening gallery murder. So Death Carries a Cane is directed by Maurizio Prado, and it's largely set in Rome. It's not like a jet-setting giallo. They don't really move around so much, and it's a kind of a Rome we don't get to see anymore. It's before it became this huge inhospitable place overrun with tourists. It looks almost provincial. Some of the exterior shots and also those bustling markets. It just has an almost rustic quality to it, which sets it apart. It's not like cold and modernist giallo. It's more of a giallo of the people, and the supporting characters are also seem to be just kind of they belong to like the lower class, working class of Rome's society, and I think this is the special. This peculiarity gives Death Carries a Cane its atmosphere, its specific flavor, because otherwise, in terms of plot, in terms of what it offers, it's more or less generic. So it qualifies as a giallo because immediately the opening credits, we see this, I guess, central motive of any 70s giallo is the theme of watching and being watched. So eyes, cameras, lenses of all kinds, spy holes, that's very prominent. And we see here our protagonist, played by Susan Scott. She's on the Gianicolo, the one of the hills in Rome. And she's watching through the spyglass, and she witnesses the murder, which happens to take place close by to her house. And it's the usual black clad killer stabbing some woman. And interestingly, later, when this murder is finally discovered, there is even a still of the murder in the newspaper. So somebody, it looks like somebody was just, one of the reporters happened to be there and even took a picture of the killer running away without obviously revealing their face. So the things I really like about Death Carries a Cane is the music by Roberto Pregadio, which is excellent. Some of it is very ominous and haunting, so all the suspense moments are greatly supported by the music. So music has a lot of range. Some of it is kind of sweet and almost saccharine for more light-hearted, moments, or those kind of interludes in bed. I mean, Death Carries a Cane, it serves kind of scenes in bed which are supposed to be like hot and saucy, and scenes which are murder set pieces at regular intervals, and in between there is the police procedural element, which is probably the less successful element of this film, with, like I said, the inspector character played by George Martin has a ton of screen time but not a lot of charisma, and he's a very dour and humorless individual, so I wish he was less in the film. On the other hand side, the supporting characters embodied by lesser known kind of bit part actors are excellent, and it's a pleasure to watch this film dubbed in Italian because it seems to have more of a flavor, of a local flavor. That way dialogues are silly. Poor Susan Scott is given some crap dialogue. Her character is unfortunately written to be passive, and she takes some horrible sexist remarks from men around her, but what can you do, from a film of its vintage? It's nothing surprising. And I have to say, I still enjoy the film, even though it's not the greatest giallo of all time. There is also a bit part for Luciano Rossi, who was this very busy, again, supporting character in some of the gialli and other genre films of the time. He's a throwaway red herring. There is that lack of psychology kind of inherent in this genre, which means the characters mainly function either as witnesses who are later dispatched, so they show up, they dispense plot information, and then they're murdered, or they just drop out the plot. And then there is the nominal hero, who again basically is struggling to put two and two together to unravel the killer's, the mystery, to figure out the killer's identity. And then there is red herrings. So everybody, usually just about everybody, is made to look suspicious in some wildly implausible ways which define any kind of normalcy. So there is nothing normal about this film, even though nominally it's set in the real world, but these films are basically so far removed from anything mundane that it makes them, which is what makes them so much fun to watch. And I think Death Carries a Cane can be recommended to people who like 1970s fashions and styles, and also the camera maneuvers, very much zoom happy, somewhat wobbly kind of camera acrobatics. It's a stylish film, but it doesn't overwhelm you with that. It's greatly also boosted by the score of Roberto Pregadio. So I think the people who have already gone through the major gialli of Fulci, Argento, and maybe Sergio Martino will be glad to check out Death Carries a Cane, because it's a second-rate giallo, but it's nevertheless lots of fun with some also nasty razor killings, slashings, and murders.